Hey, what's up? Welcome to this tutorial. I'm going to show you how to build a small site from frontend.io. And this was actually a challenge a friend of mine, Adrian Twayrog from Australia, gave me this morning. He also has a great YouTube channel, so make sure to check him out. I'm always up for a great challenge, so that's why I did this one. So let's get started. All right, let's kick this off. We have to go to frontend.io and download the starter files for this project. And I've selected this one, 4-card feature section, and then you just click the download starter free, and that will give you a zip file, and then you'll have this folder here with a design folder with images, with an index.html, a readme file, and a style-guide.md file. And in this case, I'm just going to open up my index.html file in the browser. So I'm not going to start up a server or anything for this one because I plan to have a little bit of vacation now when it's summertime here. But I thought it would be fun to just quickly throw this one in and create this little project. All right, so I just open it up in the browser and then we have our files. We can check the style-guide and it tells us what we need to do. It needs to work on mobiles, 375 pixels and below, and also to desktops. We have the primary colors and the neutral colors, and we have the typography, body font size. I'm going to keep this at 16 pixels. That's the default font size. I don't want to change this one. But we have to grab this font from Google Fonts. So this link here, copy this one and paste it in. And we need 200, 400, and 600. So we select those ones, 200, 400, and 600. And we select embed and copy this one here. Go back to our code. Inside of the index.html file, we can paste it in there. Just below the other link. So that will import the Google font for us. We also need to create a style.css file for this project. So create a new file, call it style.css, and then we can import that one in the index.html file. And we do that in the head also, so just somewhere below here. So by using the short command here in Visual Studio Code, I select this one for CSS, and it will give us the link tag, and we import the style.css, so that's great. And this one here, that's just the little stuff they have here at the bottom. I'm actually going to remove this one for now. So I think that's about it. We can also remove the footer. We're not going to need that one here. So this is about it for us to get started. So let's start by creating the HTML. And just below here in the body, we already had the text here that we're going to use for this one. They have provided us with that. I can also mention that inside the design, we can see how this is meant to look. They have the designs here. And then we have an images folder with all the stuff that we need for the icons in the design. And this is, of course, these icons here, 4 of them. Right? So get back to the index.html file, and we can create a main tag. That's where our main content gonna go. And then we have the header. So we have an H2 tag, and we have the title here, reliable, efficient delivery. All right. So we paste that one in. And then I'm gonna create an H3 tag. That one is going to say powered by technology, like that. And then we have a P tag with the other text here. And I paste that one in there. I'm not going to auto format anything yet because then it will screw this one up here and I don't want that. So that's the header, right? Then we're going to have our grid, and the wrapping div around that one is actually going to be an article. So article, like that. That's going to be our grid. And then we have different sections inside of here. And these sections, of course, corresponds to these cards here in the design. So we have the grid. That's an article, and then we have the sections. Each card here is a section. So this is semantic HTML I'm using here. So back to the index.html, we have a section, and these ones are going to look exactly the same but have different content. So inside we're going to have an H3 tag, a header, and for the first one it says supervisor. All right. Then I'm going to have a P tag, and we have the text here. That one. And then we're going to have an image also. So an image tag with a source of images // and for this one, that's going to be the supervisor, of course. And we can self-close this one like that. So this is one section. That's all that's going to be in each section. So we can copy this one, paste it in 3 more times. Then we can just paste in the text here that we have below. We have the team builder. We have the text here for that one. So we place that in the p tag. Then we have the karma. Don't really know how that is pronounced in English. Karma, I think. Yeah. All right. And the text for that one. And the last one is going to be the calculator. So paste that one in and also the text for that one. And this should be it. And we can do some auto formatting to fix everything here. So we have a main tag that wraps all our content. Then we have our header. Then we have an article, and this one is going to be the grid, and we have different sections in the article itself. Sweet. So I'm going to close this file, save it, of course, and close it. First, I'm going to copy these values from the markdown file here, style-guide. So we have the primary colors and the neutral colors. So I copy these ones here. Go inside the style.css and :root. I'm going to create some CSS variables here for us to use. So I paste in these colors. I'm going to change this one to a CSS comment, primary. And this one is going to be neutral, like so. And now we have to change some stuff here because this isn't CSS syntax. So we have the red. When we create the CSS variable, we do a double dash and we name it. And we also need to have semicolon at the end of these rows. So make sure to add them on every row here, like this. And then we can rename these ones. So we have the cyan, double dash cyan. I use lowercase letters for these ones. Double dash orange and double dash blue, like that. And then we have neutral colors. So double dash, very dash, dark dash blue. And then we have the grayish blue. So double dash, grayish dash blue. And the last one is going to be very light gray, double dash, very dash, light dash gray. And do some auto formatting and save it. So that's our colors that we're going to use. And we can actually reload this one to see that we have everything in place here. Of course, I forgot to change the images here, so I can do that also. Go back to the index.html file. The second one here isn't, of course, going to be the supervisor. It's going to be team-builder. And this one is going to be icon-karma. And the last one is going to be icon-calculator. Save it and reload it here and see what we've got. And it looks pretty right, I think. So I close this one again and go back to the styles.css. First, I want to do some resetting here. So I use an asterisk and I set the box sizing to border box. And I also set the margin to 0. Just reload it to see. You can see here we don't have any margins on anything now because I'm going to style this later. So that's what I do for resetting in this one. And then on the body, I'm going to set the background color. We have our variable, double dash, very light gray. And yet again, if we look at the design here, you can see that they have this gray color here. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm setting the background color. And I'm also going to set the standard font family and the color of the font. So go back to the style.css file. And I set the color. And this one is going to be from our variable, the grayish blue. And we set the font family to the one that we import from Google Fonts. And that's Poppins. And then we have sans serif as a fallback font. So save it. reload it, and you can see that we changed everything here. So that's great. Then we're going to set our typography. So we have the H2 tag. I set the font size to 1.8 rem, and the font weight is going to be 200. We move on with the H3 tag. The font size is going to be 1.8 rem. The font weight is going to be 600 on this one. I set the margin to 001 rem and 0. And these are, of course, values that I have tried out because I wanted this to be kind of a quick video where you can see just how I did this. So you can tweak the values however you want if you want to try different stuff out. And I set the color to a variable, very dark blue on that one. And the last one here is going to be the P tag. And the P tag is going to have a font size of 0.9 rem and a font weight of 400. Do some auto formatting and save it, reload and see what we've got so far. So you can see that it's slowly getting together here. We have changed the header 3 here, and everything looks great so far, but it still looks kind of miserable. So we have to fix some stuff here. All right. That's the typography. Then we can move on to our main. So we style the main. This one, I'm going to display it as a flex because I want to center all the stuff inside of here. So I can set it to flex, and I set the flex direction to column. And I'm also going to give it a padding of 2 rem. Save it, and I reload and see what we've got so far. We can't really see that it's centered right now because I need to set the width of different elements here also. So that's the main. And then we have the article. That is going to be our grid. If we look again in the index.html, if you forgot here, I created this main here. We have the header, and then we have the article. So actually, I can create the header first so that we do it in the correct order. So we have the header. I'm going to set a max width on this one to 500 pixels and give it a margin of 3.5 rem. That's the top and the bottom. And I set the rest to auto, and this will center it. And I'm also going to text align it to center like that. Save it and reload it. So you can see that it's centered here now, and it looks quite good already, actually. So that's great. That's the header. Then we move on to the article. And as I said, this is going to be the grid. So display grid. I'm going to align the items to center in this one. I'm going to have a grid gap. The grid gap is the space between the different cells in the grid. So I set this one to 2.3 rem. Margin is going to be 0 and auto. Save it. Align items should of course be center. And I also need a colon there. Okay, save it, reload it, and you can see that it's centered now. So if I remove, for example, this one here, save it, you can see that it's not centered. And also if I don't set this main to flex, if I remove this and save it, you can see that it's not centered either. So I have to set this one to flex to center all the stuff inside of here. We don't really need to set any columns and rows because it will create those automatically when we set it on each section that we're going to do. And I'm going to show you that in a little second. First, I want to change the typography inside of this grid. So I set on the article and the H3. I set the font size to 1 rem. The margin is going to be 0, 0, 0.5 rem and 0. That's the H3. Then we have the article and the P. It's going to be a font size of 0.7 rem. And you probably also already noticed that I'm doing this with vanilla CSS. I'm not using Sass or anything fancy for this one. Sometimes I think it's fun to just do stuff from scratch without any extra help. And you actually learn a lot by doing it that way also. Okay. The last thing we're going to set on this P tag is the margin, so 0, 0, and yeah, I set this one in pixels, all right. So 100 pixels, save it, reload, You can see that we changed the style here of the header and the text inside of these sections. So time to style the sections. Each section is going to have some main styles. And then I'm going to set a class also on these sections. And I can actually do that now already, because these ones are going to have different colors. So we can set a class on each section, class. This one is the cyan one. Another one is going to be the red one. And the third one is going to be the orange one. And the last one is going to be the blue one. Save it. I think that this is now everything we need in the index.html file. So go back to the style.css and we style the section itself, and then we're going to style these ones individually. So I set the position to relative. And this is because I'm going to use an absolute positioning on the image in this one. So I have to set this to relative, otherwise it won't work. I set the min height to 180 pixels. And I set the max width to 270 pixels. And these values are just from my head. I actually didn't measure it on this one here, so I just looked at it. So if you want to be pixel perfect, you can measure it up and change those values to whatever you want. I'm going to have a border radius on this one of 0.4 rem, and background is going to be white. And the padding is going to be 1.8 rem. Then, if we look at the design, we need some box shadowing on these ones. And when I create box shadowing, I usually just Google something like box shadow generator, like that. And it will give us something like this. And you can tweak these values here to get the correct box shadow. And it's easy to just copy this one and paste it in the code. So that's what I've done here. I already have tweaked this to my values. So I'm actually just going to copy and paste this one in from the code that I already created. But you can try and play around with a generator like this, and you will get a pretty good result here. So you can just copy this one in here. So I go back to my code editor, paste in the one that I already created. So you can see it's 0 pixel, 12 pixel, 20 pixels, and -2 pixels. And we have the color here. And that's the color black with an opacity of 0.2. All right, save it, reload it, and see what we've got. You can see that we have this nice little box shadow here. So that's sweet. So that's the kind of everything that we need for all of the sections. And now we can style them individually with the classes that we set for the different colors. We're also going to style the image. So section, image, position. I do an absolute positioning on this one. So right, 1.8 rem, and bottom is also going to be 1.8 rem. And this is exactly the same as the padding, because I want to keep it in line with the padding. And I'm going to set the max width of 55 pixels on the image. Save it, go back and see what we've got. You can see that it moved over to the right. All right, just the different colors, and then we have to do some responsive styling also, and then we finish. So we have the .cyan, and here is the most important part in this video, because we have created this grid, and now I'm going to set up this grid to look just as a design here. So if we look at the design here, you can look at this as a grid with 4 different rows. This one will be placed on row 2 and 3 and in column 1. This one will take up row 1, 2 in the column 2, and this one will take up row 3 and 4 in the second column. And the last one is going to be occupied on the row 2 and 3 in the third column. So that's what I'm going to set up. So the cyan one, that's the first one. We set the grid-row. This is the shorthand to set both the start value and the end value. And the first one, I'm going to bring up the design again. It's going to be on row 2 and 3. So with grid, if we want it to start on row 2, we have to set it on 1 because we want it to start the row 1. And then we have a / and we want it to stretch. So that's why I'm going to set it to / and a 4. Then I'm going to set the border dash top to 0.2 rem solid, and we have our color that's called cyan. So if we save this and look at this now, you can see that it added this one, but nothing has happened here because we haven't set the other ones. So the grid won't do anything yet, as we have to set those one also. So we have the dot red. We set the grid dash row. This one is going to start on row 1 and stretch to the second row. So that's why we set 1/3. I know it can seem a little strange, but we have to always set it one value ahead here. And then I can copy this one because these are going to be the same. We're just going to change the color here to red. Save it, go back and reload. And you can see that it's starting to look like something now. This one is correct here. And the first one also positioned correctly here now. Then we have the orange one, and that's the karma. And then we have the calculator. So we're going to do the orange one now. And this one is a little bit special because we had to set the column on this one also because we want it in the same column as the red one. So grid dash column, and we want this one in the second column. So we start at the second and we end it at the third. So this will position it in the second column. Then we set the grid dash row. This one should go at the third and the fourth row. So 3/5 like that. And then we set the color. And this one is, of course, going to be the orange one. Save it, reload. See that it don't look right now because we have to set the last one also. So dot blue. On this one, we set the grid row just as the first one. So 1/4 like that. And we paste in the border top and change it to blue. And save it, reload. And you can see that it looks, no, it actually don't look right. I think we should have 5 here instead of 4. Yeah, because we want it on all rows and then we center it on all those rows. So that's why. And this is, I think, kind of confusing with the grid. And I reload it. And now this one stretches on all rows and we center it on those rows. And that's because we're using on the article itself, we are align items to center. If I remove this one and save it, you can see that it's stretched out like this instead. So we're not centering it. So that's what that row does. So very careful, 1/5 on the cyan and 1/5 on the blue one. So we have everything set up here. We just need to create some responsive styling also, and that's actually quite easy. I'm going to show you that one now. We're going to have one media query for this one. So at media screen and I set the max width on this one to 768 pixels. You can set it to another value if you want that. So the article, that's the grid. We're not going to display that one as a grid anymore. So we set it to display block. And if we save it now and try to reload it and see what we got here, you can see that it removes the grid. And this is exactly what we need for mobile devices. So that's the article. And then the section is going to be, it's going to have a margin of 2 rem and 0. All right. Then we have the H2 and the H3. That's the headers. We're going to set the font size to 1.2 rem and the P tag is going to have a font size of 0.7 rem. And do some auto formatting and save it and reload it. And you can see that is working. That's everything we have to do. So actually quite an easy one, I think. There's not much CSS going on, roughly 100 rows of code and not that much HTML either. So hope you enjoyed this one. Frontend Mentor is actually great when practicing stuff like this. So I suggest you go there and try some other products out. And as always, if you like my channel and my content, make sure to subscribe. I will put out content like this regularly, and I'm truly grateful for all the support I can get. See you in another one.